Thank you to Huel for sponsoring this video. More on them in just a bit. Ladies and gentlemen, my God, there's so much to talk about today. There's so much. I got a notepad.
Look at you adulting.
Of things to bring up. John, why are you not wearing your headset? Don't you know you are the new off-camera voice?
I'm just off to the side, making sure the picture and sound quality are up to ArcLight's high standards.
That is not important. What's important is we got a lot to talk about. Here's what we got on the agenda so far today. A lot of Disney stuff. Daredevil early reactions. Kathleen Kennedy might actually be leaving. You need to do that news story at least once a year.
It's quarterly now.
It's quarterly now. Yeah, you got to at least once. Punisher might be getting a special. Andor. Let's just shove them all out at once because that's what we love to do. And apparently Russo Brothers said something about Doomsday that has people Doomsday talking. And this is the one we got our DC Studios guy for. DC Slate stuff updates. Oh my God. And then as I was talking to you earlier today, the Green Lanterns photos got released. And Coy really wants to talk about Timothée Chalamet.
I literally that's all I texted you. There's all this news this week, and I was like, I got to talk about Chalamet's speech, Greg. But that's the difference between this show and every other show on the internet is I can just be like, this means something to me.
Yeah, man. I mean, I have like some slight opinions about it. There's chapters if you guys want to hop around. Thank you to all who attended Multicon, by the way. That was a really successful event. Thank you. You could watch Coy's panel that he did with Kevin Smith, Rob Liefeld, and Robert Kirkman. That is, of course, up here on the YouTube channel. Watch the panel I did with Sean Gunn, Vivian Blair, and Daniel Logan, and, of course, the Real Rejects panel. So thank you, guys. Before we get into all these news, we had a lot of deaths in the past couple days.
Within 72 hours or so, yeah.
Yeah.
It's been
crazy. We don't want to, like, dive too much into it. We just want to acknowledge the loss of, like, three people.
Yeah, like Robert Orci, who's a prolific writer, Michelle Trachtenberg, who was our age, a little bit older than us. I think like the first Nickelodeon princess kind of like grew up with Michelle Trachtenberg, and then very recently to filming Gene Hackman, the legend Gene Hackman at 95.
His whole family. That's a strange bit of circumstances.
His wife and dog.
Yeah, like you messaged me and you couldn't have said it better. That it's weird for a 95-year-old man
to have anything but natural causes. Like I forget what I texted exactly, but it was the most interesting dynamic around someone whose death I would have just been like, that's unfortunate. I'm so glad he made it to 95. Like and then like the next sentence was like because I mean, as of now we have no idea. But it definitely an odd situation around that death. And then, and the Michelle Trachtenberg thing is like a liver thing. I don't know, man, just heavy
stuff. And they're all legends in their own way.
Yeah.
It's like the way we quantify legends is very subjective. And everyone, like people who are Buffy the Vampire Slayer fans, I'm sure like legend in some way.
Harriet the Spy, man.
Harriet the Spy, man. Yeah.
Eurotrip.
Haven't seen Eurotrip.
Oh my! You've never seen Eurotrip?
No.
Scotty doesn't know.
I hear you say that a lot. I know you're a huge Eurotrip fan.
I confused Kristen Cruick so much because I did a Smallville reunion panel and I kept being like Eurotrip. I kept throwing in Kristen Cruick was one of my biggest crushes growing up because of Lana on Smallville.
Oh, gotcha.
But Eurotrip was like her first thing outside of Smallville that I saw. So it's like a teen sex comedy. Smallville is like so buttoned up and it's on the CW. So for her to do a sex comedy, I was like, my word. So I love Eurotrip, and Kristen Cruick was like, I didn't think anyone loved it as much as this guy.
That's awesome to hear.
Yeah,
all right, that's a solid recommendation.
Eurotrip's great.
That's a unique sell on the sex comedy Eurotrip.
It has the best Matt Damon cameo of all time.
I've heard that, and I don't know what it is.
I love that for you, because you're about to experience something that is revelatory.
Like, where's this Matt Damon cameo?
It's so good.
Anyway, there's not going to be any smooth transitions today. I'm just going to call them out so it's easier for me to identify chapters when I'm working on the metadata. Chapter 1 of this episode of the Real REAL Rejects podcast. Coy, I'm relieved to see it. I skimmed it briefly, just a few, and then I read a little summation of it because I didn't want to get too involved in the specifics. It's like if I see a Rotten Tomatoes capsule, I like to just see that, a couple of ones, and be like, I'm good now. I don't need to deep dive into this. The Daredevil Born Again early reactions are pretty phenomenal.
I did the exact same thing you did.
You did? Yeah.
I went, okay, that's enough.
Yes.
I didn't want to read. I already read one word, which I'm not going to tell you because I'm not a monster. I read a word that I think already ruined something, and it was on one of the capsules, and I was like, why would you include that? And that was my moment of I was only gonna read 2 more, and I was like, well, no, and I'm out.
Yeah.
So like I only read like 5 or 6 things, and one of them already ruined something. So I'm out.
I hate when early reactions try to be clever.
And they're not.
When they're not, and you're like, you just kind of, because there's one thing I sort of read.
And they put it in bold italic. The one word was in a bold italic.
Like I stopped at the 3rd one because I sort of read something, and then they had a GIF of the character, and I was like, well, I feel like you just spoiled some shit.
That's so clearly a spoiler. Why would you do this to me?
Yeah, like kind of a big one to be, at least to even be on the lookout for.
I don't want to know anything.
Yeah. And I feel like all you got to do is just tell me the shit I kind of want to hear if it's true. You know, the main thing I've heard is like the most cliche thing in here is like CGI, a little wonky at times.
Okay.
Which is kind of weird to hear with because I don't associate the show Daredevil with CGI, but I did notice in the trailer there's a lot more CGI. It's Disney now. What are you going to do? But everything else, apparently, it's like, if you were like, it's the best first episode of any, which is a weird category.
It's a very specific compliment.
Yeah, because it's not really a first episode.
It's like 2.
It's the first episode of a sequel show. But
yeah, it's also people watch 2 episodes. Like, does the second one dip?
Oh, that's what you mean by 2. Yeah, I thought you meant 2 by the second show.
No, like it literally like is 2 episode premiere. So it's a weird thing to be like the first one. Except that like I'm not usually negative. It's like, what was the second one? Second one good?
Yeah, but when you bring a show back in a sequel way, I wouldn't consider that first episode
a pilot.
Yeah, the actual, I guess it's a pilot of Born Again, but
it's
there's
like
so
season
much
4, episode 1.
Yeah, this is especially a confusing one,
Yeah.
you know?
But I'm glad people are loving it. I'm
too,
elated.
Yeah. They're saying it's violent.
Yep.
They're saying it lives up to that. And obviously there are those people where they do seem like they love everything all the time. And generally you can kind of see through the lines when you're seeing like early social media reactions when they're being like hyper specific on 1 or 2 things because they're looking for the good thing to say because they're afraid to say the bad thing.
Yeah.
And I didn't get that vibe when I was looking through it. It felt like there's a genuine sense that they have confidence in this. And the fact that Disney actually sent out screeners to people.
Yeah.
And they sent all the episodes, which they never do. Sometimes that can read as they're dumping it. Other times that is a sign that they're really confident in what they got going because it's not the release date of Your Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man, which is an amazing series. By the way, if you haven't seen it, they're doing like 2 and then 1 at a time and then 2 at some other point. You know, it's a weird schedule, but the fact that they're doing all the episodes that like weeks in advance to give to the press.
That means they're confident in the whole run and its ending.
Yeah.
That means they're confident in the conclusion.
Yeah.
Because sometimes they'll give like 6 out of 9. I'm like, does it not end well? Or like they'll want the 3rd act out there, but this is just blind confidence.
Yeah.
Pun intended. See what I did there? See what I did there?
Get ready for a lot of terrible impressions during our reaction.
The penguin's back. I don't even know how we could top. Like we did 12 weeks of Penguin because it continued after the show.
Yeah,
like we couldn't shake Penguin reactions even when Penguin had been over. So good. Gefilte fish.
So excited to see Skinny Wilson Fisk.
Yes,
Skinny Fisk. Okay. Well, while we're on the subject of Daredevil, this news. See, I'm trying to figure this out. Do I go with what will be most engaging or smoothest to transition to, Coy?
I mean, I would have gone Andor after because that's why the release schedule is so weird.
I love the way you think. What is Disney doing?
Putting out an even weirder release schedule for Andor.
Just when I think you guys got it down. Nope. Because Your Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man is like 25 minutes long an episode.
Yeah.
So even if you're going to do 3 episodes,
it's a movie length.
It's fine. Andor, it's generally longer if I'm not mistaken. And dense, thought-provoking.
Yeah.
I get that Andor was not a huge number show when it first came out.
But it grew more than anything I've ever seen.
That rarely happens for Disney Plus, a streaming service show.
It's also like almost universally beloved.
Yeah, their trailer is like highlighting the critically acclaimed side of their first season.
Yeah.
And I'm like, did you guys not pay attention? People want season 2 because of how great it is. It grew in popularity. There were so many people, YouTubers, who would do reviews of Andor way after it had come out.
And they would still do okay.
And they would still do well because the word of mouth on it was so strong.
Yeah.
this is ruining the experience. They're doing 3 episodes at a time.
They're dumping it in 4 weeks.
Oh my God.
And it's a $300 million show.
And it's the final season, too.
It's like the most expensive show. Why would you not want 12 weeks of that?
I don't think it's too late to change your mind on this.
Do it now.
I think you should if there's anyone, we know some people at Disney sometimes watch our shit. No one who's this influential. But fix your shit.
It's insane.
Iger, I know it's you watching.
Iger's watching. He's also mapping out the schedule himself.
He's in his room. I'm giving Zaslav a massage right now.
Just typing calendar dates going, that looks good. But I don't understand, like, I'm sure it's rushing. I know Daredevil's got a truncated release because of Andor, and then Andor's probably rushing for something else. But these are 2 biggest shows of the year.
Yeah.
It's not like there's something bigger that Andor's rushing for, because it's all done in 4 weeks. Like, it's done.
Yeah.
Why?
I think it's a combination of they're afraid of how the Star Wars brand has been tampered with. Oh, this is good because then we can segue into Kathleen Kennedy later.
Oh,
we're figuring
that's
it
what
out.
I thought was happening.
Oh my God.
Yes.
So, like the Star Wars brand is being like a little bit damaged. Obviously, popularity has dwindled. They did Skeleton Crew. This is what I mean. It's not a one-to-one thing. It's not a one-to-one comparison. Just because Skeleton Crew wasn't a huge viewership show, that doesn't mean it's going to be the same thing for Andor. No. Andor's loved beyond belief. Like, so was Skeleton Crew generally, but Andor's on another level of storytelling that is a general belief when it comes to that show. So it shocks me that they would just do that. When the first season was, I think the first season was 3 episodes the first day.
And then singles.
And then once a week after that.
Yeah.
And it did grow. Oh, man.
And I'm so, like, already exhausted by the density of it. Even if I liked the binge model, which I hate, I don't want to lose out on the nuance because I'm like, oh, gotta watch the next one. It's such a bad idea.
Because every episode is crafted. Every episode is composed. And you dilute that by doing these 3 episodes at a time. You just look at it as one giant package of a season, and what happened to when we can look at it as 1 episode at a time.
And you get 4 videos out of reactors instead of 12. And like, that's advertising for you.
Who knows? We might milk it.
I'm doing 12.
We might do 5 videos per 3 episodes.
Yeah, 20 videos.
Part 1, part 2 of every
Tune in next
that we
8
do.
minutes.
Yeah.
Well, we're gonna do a reactions and then the review. No, but it's such a bad thing for like, as reactions are such marketing. Like, it's such a smart way to get marketing like out there about your show. Is you're having that conversation about the property. Why would you cut that by that much?
You know what I think they might be influenced by? I mean, part of it does seem like they're dumping it. The other part does seem to come back to Arcane for me. But Arcane was specifically crafted for, you're going to do 3 episodes at a time because they're each specific chapters, and it works perfectly. Season 2 was not as strong as season 1, in my opinion, and a lot of other people's opinion. It wasn't, but it still feels very intentional in those 3 episodes that when they're crafting it on paper, it has to be those 3 episodes at a time. I don't feel like that was Gilroy's plan for this.
I feel like the show is only growing in popularity critically and by the fans, and the worst thing you can do with the only guaranteed hit is go, all right, it's over.
Yeah, and I'll say this. I think that Tony Gilroy, it's Gilroy, right? I think Tony Gilroy did an excellent job with season 1, but I blame Kathleen Kennedy for this release date.
That's the tangent, and here we are. Story 3.
When Star Wars is good,
she had nothing to do with it.
Nothing to do with shit on that.
But when Star Wars is bad,
everything is her fault.
Why was she directing so much?
Why was she just micromanaging
she shouldn't have starred
everything?
as Luke Skywalker if she didn't want this heat.
That devil woman.
Yeah. Way to wear a mask and play Andy Serkis.
I had this thought in the car that really dawned on me. Sometimes when I think about Kathleen Kennedy, my honest first reaction is, he seems like an unpleasant individual. And then I asked myself, why? And then I went, I have nothing to really back this up with in true detail. And I realized the echo chamber that, because of what I'd been exposed to, because that's the thing about an echo chamber. It's a great talking point to say, I don't want to be part of an echo chamber. It's really clever to say that. But sometimes that's the only thing you hear in passing or whatever. And then before you know it, your thoughts are influenced and you have an opinion, sometimes a strong emotion. And then you go,
where'd that come from?
I don't even know why I have that. Where
What's
did this
that
come
source?
from? And I realized I have that with Kathleen Kennedy.
Okay.
Because I don't really have anything against this individual, Kathleen Kennedy. I agree that Star Wars has been the weirdest, wonky journey since Disney bought it.
Yeah.
It started off strong with Force Awakens, and then Rogue One. Like in terms of, yay, we're back, we're on the right. This is a good starting point. And then Rogue One was. A lot of people love Rogue One. Last Jedi, everyone knows that's when the divide happened. Then but they would announce shit that never gets made. Often at like Star Wars Celebration and D23, and nothing gets made. So when something is in rocky territory or shambles, I think it is important to constantly go, who is the leader? I think that's so important to do because it always trickles down from that.
Right.
And a leader in that way, I heard someone, Simon Sinek, he put it interestingly. He said, I think we should get rid of the term CEO and use the word CVO for Chief Visionary Officer, because that's really what a CEO has to do, is be the Chief Visionary Officer to guide this. And when you look at there's a lot of hits and misses. Yeah, it's a mixed bag, and I do feel like it would be an okay time to step down, but I feel like we have to get to a point where we can also acknowledge like the good that's happened. She had something to do with the good that's also happened in the Star Wars universe. Because it's not all black and white, not everything's bad.
It's like Kevin Feige now. He's like, Kevin Feige's dropped the ball. And I was like, No Way Home was when you blame Sony for the Sony movies, but then you don't get Kevin Feige credit for No Way Home. It's like, why was just that one exceptional to you?
Yeah.
But you can be like, Kevin Feige ruined everything after Endgame. It's like, but we've had Shang-Chi and we've had No Way Home. So it's the same thing where it's like, you can blame the leadership when it's bad, but no one credits the leadership when it's good.
That's generally leadership.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then if a leader wants credit, it looks bad.
Yeah, then it's like, why is the ego on this leader? But like, it's funny when you said like when I think of Kathleen Kennedy, I have negative things. I think one of the benefits of me not spending much time on YouTube is when I think of Kathleen Kennedy, I go like, I wonder if she was related to JFK. Like, I don't have any association. I don't think of Kathleen Kennedy.
Yeah.
Like, I just don't have any pro or con. I've seen her speak. I've been to events, and I'm like, that's that lady. Like, I just don't have any tie.
Yeah.
So like, it's interesting when all this news came out, and like, there's headlines that are like, she's gonna, and then the next day headlines are like, maybe, and then the next headline's like, she's staying, and that happens every year. I'm always just like, you guys think about this lady a lot. I don't have any association with. And I like Star Wars, but I don't like have that devout, oh my God, I have to blame someone. I just go like, what's the next property? Like, is this gonna turn itself around? But I'm the same with like Kevin Feige. Like, if I don't like a movie as much as I want to, I don't think he can make everything perfect. But as long as there's more hits than misses, I'm like, let's see where this path goes. And I'm always on the side of like, I can't believe this exists. I'm excited. Now, granted, that can wear down, and that can be something where it's like at some point you need to be like, I'd like some more good than just neutral. But with Star Wars, like maybe it's because I'm not as big of a fan of Star Wars as Marvel, but I don't think about her. I think about the directors. I think about the writers. I think about the studio having certain mandates. Like, maybe she's to blame, but I don't know. So since I don't know, I don't think it's fair to point the finger.
Well, I think when it comes to a movie, it's really, we always want someone to blame for whenever something goes wrong, right? In our lives, we all have that's why it's a second stage grief, because the blame is a natural thing that happens. I'm saying it's the right thing or an okay thing. It just happens. And with a movie, a lot of times you can have the same exact crew make a completely different movie. The directors often work with the same crew.
Yeah.
And they might turn out something that's not good, but the whole time when they're making it for 6 months to
Feels
a year,
great.
Feels great. Feels like they're on the path.
It's probably how Love and Thunder felt.
It's how a lot of this stuff ends up going.
Yeah.
So maybe that just happened a little too often with Star Wars. Because when you look at the hits that they've had, Mandalorian season 1 and 2, people love the shit out of Mandalorian season 1 and 2.
Yeah.
Hate to break it to you guys, Kathleen Kennedy had a lot to do with that. Yeah.
And at the end of the day, I do think, not with any emotion tied to it, but just for her to step down, once Mandalorian and Grogu comes out, that seems like a kind of a chapter ending.
Yes, because that is the actual original thing.
The whole saga's over.
That was created under the Disney umbrella that seems to really have pierced the veil of beyond just going to nostalgia for the Star Wars universe.
It's a new generation's fandom. Like Mandalorian, like my mom didn't care about Star Wars to the same scale. She liked Star Wars, but Grogu made her like, she loves Grogu. So like, I feel like that's the new fandom that she found. So ending there seems natural, but I don't know if she'd stepped down before that movie.
Well, Din Djarin is my favorite Star Wars character, and he was created under the Disney era. But that's only thanks to Jon Favreau and Dave Filoni.
She had nothing to do with it.
And Pedro Pascal.
Who she had no hand in pairing up either. The two of them to transition Filoni into live action. And Star Wars Rebels is another Kathleen Kennedy era thing that people love.
Well, she was involved in Lucasfilm and Indiana Jones
She's
and everything.
Spielberg era.
She's been involved in a lot. So I think there's a lot
Goonies,
to honor about
was
this
even Kathleen
individual.
Kennedy.
And I feel like when she retires, I don't feel like we need to keep casting stones, because it seems the time I took it real is the day I got an upload of Dan Murrell talking, because Dan Murrell's not one to just milk a subject like this. So when Dan Murrell did a video about it, I was like, oh, this might actually be the time when this might be real, that Kathleen Kennedy might actually step down this time.
Yeah.
And it would be a good time for her to step down. I think after Mandalorian and Grogu, it makes sense. There's not a lot greenlit right now. It's coming out. Yeah, it's a solid chapter. And then if she oversought the Mandalorian era.
I feel like Kevin Feige is so excited for X-Men and Fantastic Four. I feel like that's why he didn't want to change any leadership after Endgame. But I feel like if he wanted to do something else, I could see that happening after X-Men. I haven't even seen X-Men, but I'm just saying, there is natural progression points. And after Mandalorian and Grogu feels like a progression point, whether you like her or not.
Yeah. What do you guys think? Tell us in the comments.
My favorite Star Wars character is Bill Burr.
Who? Bill Burr?
Yeah.
You don't even know the character's name?
It's Space Boston. Bill Burr. He played himself, and I love him.
Mayfield.
Thank you.
I pulled it.
Yeah, I'm proud. I would never have. Yeah, nicely done. Mix Mayfield, nicely done.
I'm about to make fun of Coy, but
then you're like, Mayfield,
can't recall the name right now. And then it came into my brain.
Bill Burr, favorite character in Star Wars. Not Mayfield, Bill Burr.
Speaking of Bill Burr, the Punisher.
Yeah. I'm in for this tangent.
The Punisher. 3C Films, his name's Chris, is a YouTuber who does these movie news videos, and they're great. They're like bite-sized versions, but actually really engaging, and he's really good at throwing in nuggets of opinions in there. And I heard his section about Punisher, because what the rumor is that Jon Bernthal is going to be co-creating or co-writing, which I love to hear, because man,
he's so passionate about the character,
so character developed, it'd be so character driven, right?
Yeah.
The Punisher special, like a Werewolf by Night, but for the Punisher. And he said, I don't understand why you can't just add on a few more minutes and make it a movie. And I was like, that's a damn good point right there.
I think they want to fix the Disney Plus brand.
And I thought, yes, that's where my mind started trailing off too.
Yeah.
Because when I think about Disney, I still think about the corporate synergy-driven company that wants to be able to theme park anything they're putting out in some way, or merch what they're doing in some way. I still think when I hear Disney, I still think of what I think of, like with Disneyland. Yeah, you know. So I don't think of the Punisher, you know, when I think of Disney. So Disney needs to enter this new era of, if they're going to be in the streaming world and have shit like that,
have an adult show. And I think Daredevil, like I've been saying from the beginning, like Deadpool was huge for Disney because that's adult, and it made almost $1 billion, or did make $1 billion, sorry. And then I think Punisher and Daredevil is the TV parallel to that. And I think it's really smart to grab not just a big IP character, because most of their special presentations have been Guardians is big because of the movies, not because of the comic. Werewolf by Night was never big, but it was smart to do that way. They haven't done like a huge IP special presentation. I think it's really smart to make it Punisher because it's R-rated, and because it's showing the Netflix world fold into this one, and you're going like, we're building out Disney Plus as well as movies.
Yeah, it's like when I hear the word Fox or Sony or Lionsgate, any other studio name, it's like you just think of a movie studio. Warner Brothers, you think of a movie studio. You might think of a few specific movies, but you just think of a movie studio. Disney, you're like, kid-friendly,
there's a
accessible,
tone. Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
And they need to, I think Disney Plus, you're right. Specifically, Disney Plus needs to develop that, because that's what helps if they had a different studio name for a department. It's like when something owns another
Miramax was Disney. People don't think about Disney when they watch a Miramax movie. That's Kevin Smith movies.
Yeah.
Kevin Smith movies are so raunchy. You're not like, oh yeah, Disney paid for that in its own way.
I remember watching the movie Ransom and with the Mel Gibson one, and seeing like the Walt Disney Castle on one of the covers once.
And you're like, what?
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's so weird because like it's all umbrellas, but it's branding.
But they think having the Disney logo
Yeah.
will promote it more. But I'm like,
Tarantino's Miramax. Like that's the darkest distant from Disney.
Yeah.
Like, but you don't think Tarantino like, oh, Disney film
Yeah, I think weirdly sometimes having the Disney logo
hurts
it. Weirdly, if you told me, even though Disney owns Hulu, but if they're like, Daredevil's gonna be on Hulu, I would have had way less apprehension.
Prey on Hulu. Prey on Disney Plus.
You're like, ooh, is that
I don't know if they're gonna do Predator on Disney Plus, but at
yeah.
the same time, the xenomorphs are Disney queens and princesses. Tyler Durden's a Disney prince, dude.
Is he?
Because Fox, owned by Disney. Tyler Durden's a Disney prince. Canon. I don't love it.
Is
Here
this
we
a
are.
sarcastic comment?
No.
Because I can believe this.
20th Century Fox made Fight Club. It was acquired by Disney. Disney owned the rights to Fight Club. Tyler Durden's a Disney prince.
Are you saying he is? Did someone at this
No,
company?
I'm saying they could like. That,
they could make him. a Disney
I'm not
prince.
saying he's walking around Disneyland. That'd be funny.
He should.
He's got an iconic fit. Could work.
That would be amazing.
I'd love to see that red
They
jacket.
should
walking
have
around
him
Disney.
and an Edward Norton walking
him
around.
and Deadpool. Yes. Multiple personality duos. No, but I'm saying like the characters they have, you have to have imprints. Like 20th Century Studios. They got rid of the word Fox, but 20th Century Studios still exists.
Yeah.
And they put out lots of great stuff. It would have been a Fox movie. Now it's a Disney movie, so they call it 20th Century Studios.
Whenever I see 20th Century Studios, I still assume it's like leftovers.
Your brain's like, where's the Fox?
I feel like it's still leftovers from the merger.
Yeah.
That they're like, oh yeah, we need to release this now.
Some of it for sure, but I think they're still greenlighting stuff.
I feel like all this shit they bought has made it confusing now.
It doesn't help, but that's infinite growth, which we were talking about with like how society works now. Like that's what they have to do. It's crazy.
What are they doing?
And you got to brand it right.
My mind just wait. Does Disney own Coca-Cola? No, Coca-Cola owns.
Think so.
Coca-Cola owns Dasani. That's what it is.
Which sounds like Disney.
This looks like Disney.
Dasani,
Right,
Disney. It's one thing.
They own a lot.
They do have a distribution arrangement, though.
Oh, do they?
With each other.
Oh, that's what I
Yes.
love to hear.
An agreement.
Monopolies,
hear
guys. Monopolies.
Well, speaking of oh wait, no, let's talk about Punisher.
I'm excited. Co-written by Jon Bernthal, directed by the guy who did.
They have a director already?
Yeah, dude, the guy that did King Richard, the Will Smith Oscar-winning performance.
Oh my god, I
that
still haven't
director.
seen that movie.
It's good, but like an Oscar-winning director or Oscar for actor.
Is it
director.
Jon Bernthal in that movie?
Yes.
Okay.
Good call. Yes.
Reynaldo Marcus Green.
Yes.
is the name.
He's directing, co-written by Punisher himself.
He must
Like,
have had a great time.
yeah, they must
working
have
with
got
him
along
then.
great. He's like, I want to come direct Punisher for me. It's cool.
It's
I love
described as a shotgun blast of a story, but that also has pathos and emotion.
Ooh,
That's what you want with the Punisher.
It's a great
man.
log line. Yeah, I'm really excited for this, and I think a special presentation is smart.
Wow, and Jon Bernthal is that unique talent that can have a podcast, present himself all the time at the same time.
Not oversaturated.
Not
I want
overs-
more always.
Not oversaturate, and you can still get lost in the character he's playing, no
Yeah.
matter how many times you watch him on
And
a
how much
podcast.
you know the dude.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Whereas a lot of the time that's detrimental to an actor.
He shameless name drop of the week. He's someone who I've met at a few premieres, and he's someone who, even though we've had really good conversations. We always talk about not comic stuff. Like we've talked about masculinity. We've talked about like the direction his podcast is. Like we've had really cool, real conversations, and I've never had a Punisher conversation with him because I want to do that. Like if I'm gonna make that moment about Punisher, I'd rather do it like in a setting that feels like this. Like I wouldn't want to be like, let's talk about the comic stuff because that's every conversation I have. But what's fascinating to me is as soon as I see him at a Punisher at a con, like there was one time he was walking backstage to go back to his booth, and I was like, it's the Punisher, and it scared me. Like I've talked to John, I've never met the Punisher, but I saw the Punisher once, and he scared me. And that's a separate thing to me. Like he was wearing all black because I think, you want to be in that vibe for the con to like take photos. But like that wasn't the friendly guy I've talked to a few times. It was Frank Castle.
Right.
And it was so cool that I watch his podcast pretty religiously. I really value his opinion on things. I really like John. But to see Frank Castle in public, I was like, And it was cool because you're right. He is separate. And like he's such a chameleon. And I totally forgot that was him in King Arthur. Like he is able to blend into the roles. Like Wolf of Wall Street, I don't go like, the Punisher hanging out with like Jordan Belfort. Like he feels like a chameleon. I don't know. I love Jon Bernthal.
I agree with you. I had a moment where he said King Arthur, and I was like, do I correct him or do I let comments correct him?
And then you did correct me. Thank you. King Arthur slept on Charlie Hunnam
I might
film.
have waited a
Long enough for the comments.
A few seconds too long.
A few people in there.
To let the engagement trickle in.
Slept
there.
on Charlie Hunnam film, King Arthur. Guy Ritchie, real good. Nobody likes it. I love that movie.
Yeah, I've met more and more people these days who bring up that movie. I've
love
never
that
seen
movie.
it, and I've read way more. I think Guy Ritchie is the white man's Tyler Perry in a way.
Context. What?
I think Tyler Perry has a really strong audience,
Okay.
and critics just don't like him.
Oh, okay.
And Guy Ritchie is a similar thing to me. I think Guy Ritchie is one of the most underrated directors working today,
I agree with that.
who does social commentary about white people. No,
I was like, that's what I thought you were going with. And I was like, and where does this land in that conjecture?
I
Like,
was just trying to get engagement going.
all right, well, there it is. There's your clip out.
But
Roxy, you're welcome.
I think Guy Ritchie is extremely underrated. And yeah, this Punisher thing's going to be something amazing. Did you see Punisher season 1 and 2, John?
I saw season 1. No, I think I saw some of season 2, but I wasn't as gripped by
not
it.
as good,
And I
in
fell
my opinion.
off.
Apparently, it's got a huge, high IMDb rating.
Season 2?
Season 2 is the one where he's like with the girl, right?
Yeah, it's the most cliche one.
Yeah, it feels like an action movie from the 80s and not the fun way.
I saw
Yeah.
some of that.
Yeah.
Season 1's exceptional.
Season
Season 1
one's
is
great.
such a good show.
Season 1's really, really good.
And I
That's like
can't
a
wait for him in
true
season 4.
character. That one
Yeah.
feels like a Jon Bernthal piece.
Also starring Eben Moss Backrack, the thing.
You know what I love about Jon Bernthal? It's like he's associated as such a badass. And whenever I hear him talk, he sounds like such a bro.
Oh,
Like,
yeah.
Yo, man. Hey, it's like,
Hey, brother.
Hey, brother. Yeah, I love to work on the Punisher, man.
Yeah.
He's like cool about it.
And like him and Tom Hardy
He's got,
both
like-
have that thing where they're like very, very sweet, earnest, scary men.
Yeah.
And I like that. It's like the energy I want out of people like that.
He's got like a surfer voice or something.
He was Venice forever.
Yeah, it's kind of funny. But
Yeah.
he's like, you hear Frank Castle, it's like, this is how he got it all.
Terrifying.
Yeah, that's awesome. Doomsday. That's the next chapter, people.
Doomsday!
Reject Nation, I put on some weight over the holidays, so in the past month, I've been on a pretty strict macro counting diet. And I gotta say, I'm feeling better than ever. At the same time, you gotta be real about something. Sticking to macros means really having to factor out a lot when you're trying to pick meals. And when life gets busy, that's when there's a chance it could all fall apart. That's why when I don't have something to cook, but I still need something that fits within my diet, I go for this bad boy. I know you've seen me drinking on camera before. Huel. So happy, just got a fresh order. I have definitely probably ordered more personally for this household than they've ever paid me. I don't know if that's true, but I feel confident in that theory. And Huel's Black Edition ready to drink is a complete meal in a bottle, packed with 35 grams of protein, 27 essential vitamins and minerals. You're not just filling up, you're fueling up. And here's why I love it. A, it's tasty. I've tried a lot of plant-based ones especially, and this one's actually great. All my vegan friends and I, we get together and we talk about how great Huel is. It's efficient. Obviously, there's no cooking, there's no prep. You just grab it, drink it, and you're good to go. Low sugar, high protein, great macros. Whether you're tracking your intake or just want a balanced meal, this one generally checks every box. My guy, I haven't even read that one yet. Slow release carbs. Just keeps getting better. It's a benefit again when he's ready to go drinks, right? Takes all the guesswork out of having to eat well. And best part is, the thing's affordable too. Each bottle is a meal that costs less than $5, making it a no-brainer if you're looking for a quick, nutritious option. So if you want to give it a try, it's a great way to support the channel, but more importantly, support your body. You can go to Huel.com, use my code REJECTS, and get 15% off your first order plus a free gift. What's the gift? You'll find out. It's a gift. Start feeling your body, even on the go. Trust me. You'll love it.
Doomsday.
We yelled the chapter if you read it.
I had to host a panel with a 12-year-old girl, a 51-year-old man, Sean Gunn, and
Whatever
a
age
voice
Daniel Logan
actor,
is.
Daniel Logan, however age he is, who voiced Boba Fett. Is a strange panel. Transitions not smooth, like today. Coy and I are a little tired.
Very
It shows
tired.
more on me than Coy. Doomsday. What did they say?
Yeah, I don't know what the actual quote is.
People are talking about like the Russo brothers finally speak, and I'm like, did they, or did they say like the most
Innocuous
PR
soundbite.
thing you can say?
I think they said something like, it'll surprise you. And I was like, all right, well, that's what you had to say, I guess. Like, I didn't even see a quote.
I actually never asked you, who do you think will be the leader of the Avengers?
Cap. I think
Sam
Captain
Wilson.
America will. I just
Okay.
think there'll be an element of him getting that position. The internet got so mad at me for even positing that he'd have to like show why he'd lead. Everybody's like, he should just by default. And like, yeah, they've shown him leading in Falcon Winter Soldier, and they've shown him leading, but we've not seen him lead the Avengers. So I do think there'll be an element of like him using his tactical knowledge and leadership and stuff to get to the point where he's leading. I don't think they're just gonna like throw us into Avengers.
Yeah.
So I do think it'll be Captain America. I just think it'll be a journey in the film, the first film, in Doomsday.
He doesn't need to be the most powerful to be the leader.
No.
That's not what leadership is. He just needs to be the guide, the one who knows
He
how to
needs to be one that
utilize,
can lead.
utilize other people's strengths.
And I think Doomsday is going to be Avengers assembling. I don't think they'll already be a team. I think it's going to be like a 1-2 punch.
Do you feel like Steve Rogers is the leader of the original Avengers?
I feel like he is the leader on the field and Iron Man's the leader behind the scenes. I feel like once it's a field mission, Cap leads. I feel like when it's about like the team, it's Iron Man.
Yeah, I feel like Chris Evans was Danny Ocean.
Yes.
And Robert
Iron
Downey
Man's
Jr. is Brad Pitt.
100%.
Yeah.
And that's important. And I don't know who the Brad Pitt's going to be in this new dynamic. / the Tony.
Captain Marvel.
I have a quote for you.
Oh
yeah, that's
about,
right. Yeah.
About casting, because they said of casting new additions to the franchise, Joe Russo told The Hollywood Reporter, I think we're always looking for new faces, but there's always new stories to because there's always new stories to tell. I think these movies are going to be a surprise to people. We found a way into the story that's very exciting to us, but we think very radical, bro, and I think it's going to challenge audiences.
So that quote, my tinfoil hat theory, and it's never going to happen. But what I want that quote to mean, what I would dream of that quote to mean, is some, maybe more than half, of the movies post-Endgame are another universe, and we're going to meet the actual versions of the characters, and it's not going to be who you think it is, and we're going to find out like half or 2/3 into the film that the reason the Celestial wasn't mentioned for so long was because it wasn't in the universe. The reason that these things feel disparate and the reason there's been such a mess is they can retroactively make by design, and then it can be revealed that the actual sacred timeline has not been being played with correctly, and then they can have the Avengers assemble multiversally.
Don't you feel like there'd be a lot of explanation to do?
That would make the Daredevil thing and She-Hulk make sense. That would make the Celestial thing make sense. That would make so much make sense.
Daredevil's She-Hulk mask is in the trailer.
Right. I wouldn't have done that. I would do this thing that I just described that they won't do.
Yeah, I feel like that would be a lot. That'd be like an hour explaining.
Jeffrey Wright comes in there, Uatu it up, and be like, "You haven't been the universe you thought it was."
They like to release like online videos to explain. Like, wait a minute, I'm lost here.
What did they say? Challenge audiences. Challenge them. Bring it. Do something hard. That's what I'd do. It's not going to happen, but that's what I'd do. What do you think that quote means?
I don't fucking know. like what could it mean? I feel like they're already challenging them with Robert Downey Jr. That is such a divisive thing that they knew would be divisive, and they are sticking to their guns on that. And that is why I'm excited for it, because like I know because I'm with you. It could be terrible or it could be compelling as shit depending on the execution of it. My worry is, it's another project that was greenlit that they have to get done, and that they're like, we're already in pre-production right now. We're doing all this. When
I think they're filming in the UK.
Clearly it wasn't the screenplay for, Kang Dynasty, and they had to churn out another script. And when you look at what DC is doing, I'm totally doing like a comparison thing, but hey, learn from it a little bit. When you look at what DC's doing, they're very clear about, we ain't doing shit until we got the script down.
And we've passed on the script, as approved, not passed on. Like passed, like the script's gone through passes to get to the point where we feel confident enough to then say, hey, this is going forward.
Yeah, and this isn't like an Iron Man 1 situation where you guys can like really improvise the shit out of this. This is one of your hardcore secret projects where you're going to have
culmination of a lot.
It's culmination of like every freaking thing ever and multiversal shit you got to deal with. There's a lot of moving pieces. There's a lot of characters. There's a lot of secrecy and green screen and flying in actors and shooting this. And maybe they might not know that they're going to be like, this isn't something you can like wing at all. Like you have to be really calculated about everything you're doing, and you got to tell a good movie when you're done with it.
Yeah,
that sets you up to want to watch the follow-up movie that they also have planned. So yeah, I'm a little worried about the movie. I am a little concerned that they're going into this a little quick,
and it's got a release date that's not far away.
Yeah,
the movie's coming out next year, dude.
Is it? Are we sure?
John,
where are you, John? He's not paying
attention.
What's
the release date of Doomsday?
If I'm touching himself,
I'm
under
out
the
here
table.
just going at it. I respect it. It's been a long day. I think it's next
May 1st, 2026.
That movie is out in 14 months.
I have not been paying attention to the details.
That movie is releasing in 14 months.
That is wild.
It is currently the last day of February.
I feel like you need like a year to shoot this movie.
I feel like you need 3.
Yeah.
This movie's out in 14 months. When's post-production? It just started production.
Yeah, no, that's what I mean. I think you need like 6 months to write this,
A year to shoot it,
a year to shoot it, and
a year in post.
to post
That's
it.
what I said, 3. Like, I'm not being sarcastic. I think you need 3. And I know they just announced them at Comic-Con, and I know that doesn't mean that's when they came on. But when could this have possibly been conceived long enough ago to be this level of done, to be filming, to be released in 14
Because
months?
they were clearly going, let's wait for this Jonathan Majors trial shit. Okay, now let's
Maybe they had the money to start writing.
Maybe they had a backup plan. Yeah, it's like studios often do that.
They have multiple scripts.
They have multiple scripts, or they're working on other projects. They do that. They hire writers that were shit never sees the light of day.
But Marcus and McFeely aren't cheap or just sitting around.
This isn't just some like light decision.
14 months, Greg. May 1 is so soon.
The Russo brothers are gonna die in this process.
I'm so worried about them. They were so broken after the 1-2 punch of Infinity War and Endgame, and I like the Russos as humans. And people got so weird about the first episode we did. I was like, I just wish that some of their stuff outside of Marvel had been successful, so they could do that if they wanted. And everybody's like, why would you not want people to make comic book stuff? And I was like, because they also wanted to make filmmaking, like and directing their own IP and making their own things. Like the filmmaking of comic books is tied to things. The filmmaking of your own IP isn't as tied to things.
Yeah.
I just wish, that just like the actors, like I feel like Chris Hemsworth has found a really beautiful path. Sebastian Stan has maybe the best career outside the MCU since joining it. But so many actors haven't had luck outside, like Tom Holland. And I just want people to be able to make these movies when they want, not when they have to.
Yes.
And this doesn't feel like a want.
I think what a lot of filmmakers want is to have the stamp of doing the first one, and if that carries over. So if you look at James Gunn, he did the first Guardians and he did the last, all 3.
Yeah,
right?
yeah. I was
and
like, so
special.
confused. Yeah, yeah.
So James Gunn did it. The Russo brothers didn't do the first Captain America movie. They didn't do the first Avengers or the second Avengers movie. So they stepped in and they were amazing at what they did. But to really establish their names, I think a lot of it can come down to the first to create.
It's like a pilot. Like, I feel like, Dan Trachtenberg, speaking of Prey, did the pilot for The Boys. And, that gives it a tone and a style and a world. So we got to have that stamp. And I do feel like Winter Soldier kind of reinvented things with Phase 2. So the Russos, I do feel like had a say.
Absolutely.
But I do wonder, the Gray Man didn't translate. I don't know how Electric State is going to translate, like with the stuff they're doing outside of that. And I just, for them, I wish they were able to play to the scale outside.
Yeah, me too.
But I just 14 months, Greg. How?
Well, they're challenging themselves first before they challenge the audience. That's what they're going for.
Yeah.
Oh, well.
And then Secret Wars is the next year. So, will they even have time to promote? When do you promote this movie if you're shooting Secret Wars?
I know. Those actors are going to be exhausted, too. Everyone's going to be so exhausted. I think they should just delay it. Make a better movie.
I always say you can only release something once. And I don't think rushing to the finish line is the move.
I don't understand the intricacies that are involved with, we did announce this, so we got to hit it. But I'm like, I don't know, spend some extra money and delay it some more.
Yeah.
Because if you have a better movie, you'll recoup that money better and long term.
And the legacy of the cinema universe.
Yeah, the delay will be an investment that will pay off in better escrow over time.
Yeah.
Hear that, Iger, in your little massage parlor room?
He's still watching.
Zaslav.
He's still doing calendar dates. He's still figuring out what Andor is going to be released. We're never invited to anything again.
I know. Here I am always bitching about not getting on press lists.
Dude,
and I'm like, maybe it's because of this stuff.
Shill or don't.
Yeah,
Shill or get off
pick a
the
lane.
pot.
Pick a lane.
Ooh, Shill or Don't would have been an all right title.
That's a great title. But that's
Shill or Don't.
But that's what's fun
To
about
shill or not to shill? Sorry, Corey.
I think it's really interesting because there is a level of commentary fuels this stuff. What we do is advertising for them, but it's also our opinion for us. And so it's really messy when, that's how the show started, was us being people just assume we love everything and we're shilling. But then when we love stuff, people get mad because we love everything. But then when there's any sort of criticism, that 1-2 punch of are we shills, and then Captain America reviews aren't great because they were good but not great. When we have nuanced conversations like this, it shouldn't be black and white. It should be, you're hopeful for Doom. I'm worried for Doom. We're both still excited for Doom. People don't seem to get that third part.
Yeah.
And that's what I'm worried about with media literacy and the commentary culture. Same with the Kathleen Kennedy thing. If she doesn't step down, then it's going to be a ton of videos of like, she shoulda, and then they'll get another news cycle of now she is whenever she inevitably does. It's just, it's a really messy thing that the internet movie conversation has become. And I really hope that the nuanced thing that we're trying to bring to it is, I know it's appreciated by the people that write it, but it's also like last week, our last episode, there wasn't a Hulk on a cover. So it did half the numbers because that's the only IP people want to pay attention to. And that kind of ties into my Russo Brothers thing. We're never going to discover a new grand thing if we're so focused on these things. And then within the thing we're focused on, there's no nuance on top of that. Everything's getting simpler and linear and more commodified. Everything feels like a product, not like a movie.
I started thinking about a very basic thing. Like this thought popped into my head when you were talking. This one thing, which is like gratitude multiplies, and it really got us thinking about us. And I'm like, we do tend to, and someone pointed out in a comment box the last time that we get a little bit caught up in negative responses to stuff, and we don't highlight or really talk about the positive stuff, because we had a lot of positive responses on what we've been doing.
Yeah.
And I wonder, like, if this mission statement of what we are embarking on here, like we ought to like highlight that a little bit more, and maybe that can help light a few more candles in the room.
I'd be fun to do a section of like our 10 favorite comments or something. Like literally like make a mission out of it. Cause it is human nature to remember the negative. Like you don't grow from victory, you grow from loss. So we're wired to remember the negative because we see it as like the tiger chasing us. But if we implement against our wiring 10 favorite comments or something, that would allow us to force that.
Yeah, it would allow us to feel more of the positivity, and if we shine a light more on positivity, that might actually create more, but we'll feel more positive. We feel better than people will feel better. Like even at Multicon, there were a couple of people who were like, hey, that podcast you and Coy are doing.
Yeah, man.
I love that podcast. It's like, this actually feels like a real conversation you guys are having and not just a typical news show.
I did a live.
And I was like, that's all we want for it.
That's literally all we wanted. I did a live stream today and 2 comments were about this show.
Yeah.
In my live stream separately.
Yeah.
And it felt great.
It makes me happy because I do have that thing where I feel a little bit compelled to reply to like negative comments.
Yeah.
And then we talk about it as like, this is what happens every single time.
And then it continued. Maybe weird.
But I'm like, but there's also a lot of people who are very understanding.
Are we the baddies?
Yeah.
No, I agree.
Yeah.
I want us to be aware of the world, but also I got into pop culture to enjoy it, not to hate it.
Yeah. I mean, on your panel, Kevin Smith did bring up an interesting point of it really, your panel you did and what you guys were all talking about, it shined a light on, I have never been involved in the comic book community, even though I grew up reading comics quite consistently. And I've fallen off that bandwagon where it's like now when I read a comic, it's because I have an assignment to do.
Yeah.
But even when I was growing up, it was a very isolated thing. Like a lot of people read comics, but I just never was. I didn't go into a comic book store exactly. I didn't shop at the comic book stores. I didn't have comic book friends. And it got me to understand like, oh, there's a very big difference with people who are part of the comic book community who experience these things.
Yeah.
Versus someone like me who wasn't actually involved in the comic book community despite reading them. Because he was saying stuff like, you know, the fact that I'm seeing like Captain America versus the Hulk, I just never thought I'd see that. How can you not like it? I'm like, I kind of get that. It's like when I saw Justice League the first time, I was like, I'm just happy I could see all these guys on the same screen. Like, this is fun.
Yeah.
I was able to just see the fun. And I was very dismissive of everything I would grow to hate over time.
That's what I miss most about how I mean, I still am more Kevin than internet. Like I still, I mean, like people don't like that. I'm 80% Kevin Smith, and that like, this is just crazy to see. And that's half my review some of the time is like, this is why I'm coming from this asterisk. Like you have to understand this is surreal for me. Seeing a costume that's actually out of the comic book, all that's still crazy. But I think the 20% comes from just like the water torture of the drip, drip, drip of all the rest of the stuff. At the end of the day, there's hundreds of thousands of people that have access to tell us we're wrong and idiots and it's bad. Yeah. And so like, no matter how positive you are, there's still some death of 1,000 cuts that will affect you, even if it is just 20%. So like, I mean, I know personally, I don't know what everybody else is going to do, but like when I have enough money that I can like live off it, I'm deleting everything. And I never want to read about anyone's opinion of a comic thing ever again. Like, as soon as I can, because I want to go back to being like, the Cap fighting the Hulk, that's awesome. Like, the day I can, like, I'm just blowing it all up. But that's to enjoy it again.
I know people who are not affected by negative comments. They can just handle it like nobody's business.
What drugs do they take, and where can I get them?
It's just who they are as their character, their people, and me. I'm like, after so many years, I've come to realize I'm just not that guy.
Yeah, no, I'm not either.
Like, I'm better for sure. I can definitely like sometimes see a negative comment and just be whatever about it, or ignore it, or talk my way through it in like 5 seconds.
Sure.
But yeah, enough of them. I'm like,
it wears on my days.
Yeah,
it's cumulative.
It does, and it's weird because it's so in passing for them.
Yeah,
but it lingers and festers for people like you and I.
Yeah, so I like the positive idea.
Yeah,
Jasmine made a video that I was really reluctant for her to post, and this is what this show is about, talking about stuff behind the scenes and us. She made a video about the comments that I mentioned during our Poetic Justice, during our Juice one. When we watched Juice, I mentioned at the opening of it, like, I actually have been using the balance of dealing with the negative comments, but I'd go into the comments on our videos of Poetic Justice and Boys in the Hood, and like those were really like, they helped me realize that we're having a positive impact, and it's about stuff that really matters versus like trivialized stuff. And so since the comments were positive largely about real stuff, they felt way bigger. Like, it's a bigger thing for me to hear that, oh, I really appreciate you taking the time to watch this or learn this or experience this, versus like, thanks for the comic recs. I love that people are reading the comic stuff, but if I'm affecting someone's day-to-day life, that feels huge. And so Jasmine made like a little montagey video of like some of the comments that were positive. And like, I was so nervous about even acknowledging positivity because I was so afraid someone would be like, oh, he's just gloating, and oh, look at this guy happy to blah, blah, blah. And I was like, what an awful thing that I'm not afraid to acknowledge negative comments.
Yeah.
But I was nervous about acknowledging positive ones. Yeah. So I think we should do that.
I know what you mean. I've never done what you said, but I know what you mean. It's just like the closest I've come is sometimes on our social media when I'm tagging one of our videos on like an Instagram story. I'll sometimes take positive comments and I'll highlight that on the stories. Yeah. But when I'm in the video, I'm very uncomfortable to do that,
Yeah.
But yeah, it's like there's something totally fine about.
We've talked about negative every episode.
Yeah, exactly. That's my point. That's why when we were talking, I was like, oh, but a lot of times change starts with us. A lot of times, like, fuck the system, and I'm like, but we are in the system in some way.
Yeah.
So what micro thing can we do that hopefully enough micros accumulate into some version of a macro?
Let's do it. I like that idea. Let's add that to the thing.
Yeah, John, get to it. Find a positive.
Oh, we gave John work. I didn't
Find a
realize that would be
positive,
right
John.
up. Jonathan.
I've assigned you to find a positive.
John Humphrey.
You must go in there. Find the positive.
Joy in the comments.
You almost became Liam Neeson just then.
I know. It's weird as I can do impressions like perfect when I'm by myself.
Oh, always.
But then
in
suddenly
the car,
when I'm right? Like, you're doing a great job.
Like, this is
but
great.
The second you're mic'd up or there's other people around, you're like, why am I dipping into someone I don't want to dip into?
Not the goal, not the goal.
That's why I respect impressionists so much.
It's insane.
I don't know, just activate that shit.
It's nuts.
I do have one comment that just tickled me. So, Expert Criminal 1 said, fresh out of the shower, blunt rolled, drink poured, and a Real Rejects video. W day.
That's all we need.
Love to hear it.
That was on the last podcast you guys did about James Bond, The Rock, and Will Smith.
That's cool.
Oh, I feel heartwarmed.
Comment if you just listen. I would like to know who, because there's a lot of podcasts I put on. Diary of a CEO, Simon Sinek, Weekly Planet. Weekly Planet doesn't have video. But I mainly just listen. I don't really like sit and watch a podcast. So
yeah, I'm about 50-50 with real ones. Some real ones I watch, the Jon Bernthal one.
Yeah.
I watch about half and I listen to like half.
Yeah. Hey, Coy, DC.
Hey,
John.
chapter.
John, tell us what's happening at DC.
Oh, there's much happening at DC, but not as much as you'd think because people just ask questions that lead places, and James Gunn and Peter Safran were certainly apt to point out, like, I see what you people are doing out here, but yes, their plan is to make have a 7 property slate per year, 2 live action films, and 1 animated film, along with 2 live action and 2 animated series for Max. They were out here talking a whole bunch of stuff, updating the progress on certain movies, detailing some of their plans to skew more youthful with some of these animated series and whatnot. No word on a Penguin 2. There's a lot of moving parts, but I can go down a quick just list rundown of the properties that were touched upon. Obviously, you have Superman, Supergirl, Woman of Tomorrow is midway through production with the June 26th release date in mind. Brave and Bold and The Bold is being developed actively. They don't have a Batman yet. James Gunn said, though, you might see him pop up at some point before that. Maybe.
Oh, did he really say that?
Yeah, he didn't say it will definitely happen, but he certainly said it would be possible that we would find him and you might see him in something before The Brave and the Bold comes to be.
The Blue Beetle animated show.
Blue Beetle animated show. There you
That's
go.
where I'd put him first.
That's where I'd do it.
The Authority looks like it is having the roughest road. It's been sort of pushed back in its development because they feel like something like that needs to be big and sweeping and wide. Swamp Thing is an example they listed of something that doesn't quite, their plan being flexible, even though they announced a slate. They never planned. Sorry, not Swamp Thing, Clayface, September. They never planned on making something like that, but Mike Flanagan just had such a good script that they...
It's like a Todd Phillips situation with Joker.
Exactly, and that goes in hand in hand with their dedication to good scripts being locked down before moving on. Swamp Thing is being developed. There is an untitled Teen Titans movie in development. An untitled Bane Deathstroke movie that they have said is sort of a misleading... Well, they've cast doubt on how much of a specifically Bane Deathstroke project it'll be, but James Gunn said it's Bane Deathstroke-ish. So that's coming. Sergeant Rock, which apparently Daniel Craig was never actually attached to, but, certainly in good with Luca Guadagnino, so that makes some sense. Swamp Thing.
Wait, Luca's doing Sergeant Rock?
Yeah, dude, he's directing it.
No, I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Oh, the Sergeant Rock guy doesn't matter in Creature Commandos. Why is Coy getting so excited? Oh, Luca's going to do it. Now I'm invested. Oh, now I'm in.
Slowly becoming my most anticipated DC movie.
Well, here it is. Perhaps it was a big moment in the show.
That seems like such a departure for him.
I think that's what the strength will be to show audiences like the DC logo. That's actually a beautiful tie into what we were talking about at the beginning. When we think of Disney, we think of a tone. I think doing a Sergeant Rock movie and having it under the DC Studios banner is a great way to never let that be synonymous with a tone.
Yeah.
Like make a prestige war film and have it be DC Studios canon, but also show that you can make Superman and have it have crypto in it, but then also over here. Like that's what comics feel like.
Yeah.
I think they're building a comic universe and not a cinematic comic universe.
Well, Marvel just needs to feel like Marvel and not feel like Disney Marvel.
Yes.
Yeah, is what I'm
But
I
also,
think we're getting at.
I think Marvel's also hurting because even when they feel like Marvel, there's a certain color palette you think of, there's certain tropes you think of, whereas DC can avoid that.
That's very true. John, please.
Sorry.
What else is there?
And just a thing I learned in the process of absorbing this article. Apparently, the Mike Flanagan Clayface movie set for September 11th, 2026 is going to be directed by James Watkins. So that is just a
Oh, cool.
writing and producing role for Flanagan on that. I imagine a lot of people are going to run with the idea that he's directing it. That is not the case. Swamp Thing is a bit stalled out due to James Mangold on the Oscar trail for... The complete
Bob Dylan
unknown.
movie, yeah.
Dynamic Duo is also on the schedule, which is an animated Robin origin movie focusing on Dick Grayson and Jason Todd. Then you got TV shows Peacemaker.
And if I'm not mistaken, sorry to interrupt. If
all
I'm not
good.
mistaken, with Jason, that one, he was like, I'm still not sure if it's going to be canon. Right? I believe he said that, which is like an interesting development process.
I do love the idea that like as the universe is getting shaped, you can decide.
Yeah, because their canon doesn't seem to be as,
Rigid.
religious. Yeah.
Which I think is a helpful thing for creators, like for filmmakers. Personally, when I read a comic, I'm not like, what's happening in Superman while I'm reading Batman? I like to have the freedom to tell the story.
There is not an official comment on whether or not it is canon, but I think they are leaving all these projects kind of open to the possibility to or not be canon, depending, kind of like you said.
Depending on the Rotten Tomato score.
Of course. But it does say that there may be some kind of connection between Dynamic Duo and the live action Brave and the Bold movie. So we'll see how that comes to be.
This is such an interesting set of updates. It is not that telling. It's just more like here's the progress of all these things.
Yeah.
I think that's why they had it with just press and not like a Hall H panel, right? Like to me, this is like the old school movie studio exec, but they're inviting press in.
Well, do you feel like the slate announcement, that classic slate announcement that he did, was the right call to put it in the package that they did? I feel the word I wrote down is explore. I feel like perhaps some of these they could have been clearer on. We're exploring maybe doing this versus we are doing this. Because some of these, like Authority, I'm like, that might not even happen.
I think it's context of like fan expectation, stock expectation, and also new universe expectation. You've got like, you're working against three things. You're working against what fans are going to assume. You're working against what stock people need to see in order to have faith in the growing company. And you're also working against the expectation of a shared universe as made by another company. So I think it's a no-win scenario, and you choose your battle in the moment and you go, okay, this is what I think we need to do. Because he made very clear at the jump that there was going to be things that were not mentioned that would come into play. And I think that if you'd said, and there are also things here that might not ever happen, then your stock would plummet. So I think you have to have some level of like, okay, this is what, and they were probably the most likely things, but you also announced this before a writer's strike.
Well,
and like the writer's strike, no one could have accounted for, just like the pandemic. So like, I'm not making excuses, but to answer your question, I think you're in a no-win scenario when you're taking over a universe while another one is already existing.
I mean, Star Wars and Marvel have both announced shit that they decided they're not actually going to do.
But look at how much people hate Kathleen Kennedy because of that.
Yeah.
But that's a mess, right? Like, that's what I mean. Like, it's a no-win scenario.
Devil woman.
Burn her.
JFK's cousin?
We also got TV shows on the slate. Peacemaker Season 2, obviously that's coming out in August. Lanterns released a photograph.
Woo!
And they look hot and sexy. Creature Commando Season 2 is in development. Waller, they said, has hit a bumpy road on its way to getting a good script, but is also still in development. The comedy series Booster Gold, in development. Paradise Lost, the Wonder Woman prequel, also being developed. Blue Beetle, with creatives on hand from the movie carrying over. Harley Quinn as well. And then they just greenlit. They announced the greenlighting. Here's the big news. We got DC Superpowers, which takes place at the Alliance School for Heroes and focuses on new students like Lightning, Flash, Plastic Man, Aquagirl, Green Lantern, and Terra, who level up their superpowers under the supervision of Principal Martian Manhunter in hopes of becoming, the next generation of Earth's defenders. My Adventures with Green Lantern is going to follow a high school student, Jessica Cruz, who has her life upended when, according to the official logline, a Green Lantern power ring falls from the sky and chooses Cruz, a la Death Note, to be its champion. And then there is also a Starfire series in development for the youth to, give us an inroad to the world of Teen Titans and follow her adventures as she uses, quote, an ancient spaceship and discovers she discovers on her home planet of Tamarin to escape her planet and explore the stars. Along the way, she'll meet space biker Crush, plant-loving Fern, and the magical princess Amethyst of Gem World, and together they will uncover the deepest reaches of the DC universe, save space dolphins, surf technicolor nebulas, and boldly soar into the unknown.
Lisa Frank.
There you go. So the kids are getting some love.
Crush is Lobo's kid. It's interesting. They're bringing in Lobo's kid. She's a fairly new character.
And no Lobo?
Lobo's in Supergirl.
Supergirl, right?
Yeah.
But no Lobo Solo.
No,
Lobo.
I think it'll depend on Supergirl, and I think Momoa wants it.
Oh, of course he does.
Oh, and the Batman 2 script is very encouraging, but it's not done.
And Pattinson is not the DCU Batman.
And he's not going to be him.
So sick of that rumor.
It said it in all caps and italics and in bold.
So sick of that rumor.
Well, damn. I feel like the Batman 2 is going to be a masterpiece.
I'm so excited.
Don't know anything about it, but it's going to be a goddamn masterpiece.
It's certainly the antithesis of Doomsday's release model.
I know. Take it longer to
Take as long as you need. Make that movie when it's ready.
Take it longer to do that Batman Part 2 than it is to do
Doing a
Avengers,
culmination
Doomsday.
Avengers film. This small contained Batman, take your time. Take your time. I don't want them to mess up a sequel to the movie I love like the most. Please.
It's weird when you say 7 properties. It sounds like a lot, but I'm like, some of these are going to kind of fly under the radar a little bit. That's just what happens with some of these
especially the young skewing ones.
Yeah, exactly.
But that's in our space. I'm sure parents are going to be like, oh my God, they won't turn off Starfire. Like, it's a different demo.
But really, it's like the big focus will be maybe 1 big show and 2 big movies. That will be the conversation stuff. But some of these other smaller properties, just reach wise, and yeah, I think 3 solid big properties a year is not a bad call.
Yeah, and I think that right now there's DC animated stuff that comes out that I'm not on my radar. You know, that does happen already. It's not like a new thing that'd be like, well, that movie came out, I guess.
What'd you think of that first look of the Lanterns?
I'm a huge Aaron Pierre fan after Rebel Ridge. I'd never seen him before, and then Rebel Ridge felt like a Jon Stewart
Is that Netflix movie? Okay.
Jon Stewart. It literally felt like a Jon Stewart audition tape. Like the whole movie, like that was like Jon Stewart for the whole time. Like it didn't. That idea never left my mind. In the credits rolled, it was like that was a great Jon Stewart meets Rambo movie. And then I would never have pulled Kyle Chandler. Like I love fan casting, and then it was really interesting. As soon as it was announced, I was like, I don't know. And then I started thinking about certain Hal Jordan stories, and I was like, oh, that really informs which take they're doing, and that's really interesting.
A more mature Hal Jordan?
More mature, more paternal, like a leader, someone that is not like starting their career. Because I think of Hal Jordan as like the hothead young pilot.
Yeah.
But there's so many stories where he's not.
I actually feel like Ryan Reynolds wasn't a bad idea to go with.
Sure.
Yeah. That's what I mean. Like initially.
In execution?
Yeah.
But idea?
But initially, like, oh, actually, yeah, it's a good fit.
Yeah. But like that's not Hal Jordan by the end of the career.
Right.
So I think that's really interesting, and that kind of informs a lot. So I liked the image. We can see a little bit of the ring on Hal Jordan's hand.
And it would allow them to maybe do like a period piece movie where they could do younger Hal Jordan.
Which I would never, because that'd be like a 90s movie. And I love the 90s.
And you get Timothée Chalamet.
Yeah.
Finn Wolfhard.
Yeah. All the names people always say.
Millie Bobby Brown.
Yeah. Austin Butler.
Austin Butler. Michael B. Jordan.
The cast of Stranger Things, age 30. But like, I do think, obviously we don't know anything except the below the line crew and those 2 cast members. And then they cast an Sinestro, but like the below the line is so incredible. I'm really excited.
I like that first image a lot because when you think of like, oh, your lantern show that they're saying it's like a True Detective thing or whatever, to start off with we just got a gritty still.
These guys are walking.
These guys are just walking on the road.
And only one's got a ring. I thought that was interesting.
Oh, I didn't catch that.
Hal Jordan's got a ring, but Jon Stewart doesn't.
Yeah, I think it's a solid first look to really kind of sell you on a tone because like they're going for grounded.
I also am glad the first look isn't a paparazzi photo.
It's not a paparazzi photo.
Because remember Wolverine and Deadpool, they were shooting and then they were like, we had to put that image out. And like we were like, oh God, like it was just out because they were literally getting papped. I'm glad they had control of this release.
Who's making the show again?
Like the
Lanterns?
team?
Yeah.
It is a showrunner of Ozark, Chris Mundy. It is Damon Lindelof and Tom King.
Lindelof's
Dude, Lindelof's such a nerd. Like, he loves comics.
Lindelof, I know, can be like hit or miss with certain people, but I think Lindelof's a genius.
He's the only person I've interviewed that challenged my comic knowledge. Yeah.
Yeah, I saw that.
And he was the only one that I was like, oh, how do I find something that he isn't already buying? And that was such a gift because he's a weekly Wednesday warrior. So I was like, I got to find. And then Something is Killing the Children he hadn't heard of yet. Now it's huge.
He led the charge on the Watchmen show, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I thought that was
Yeah,
great.
you put Watchmen plus Ozark plus Tom King. I'm not worried about Lanterns.
I feel like Lanterns going to be a pretty dope show.
Yeah. And it's their idea. Like, those guys pitched and wanted to develop this together.
Okay.
So, like, that's beautiful.
I do have a stray for you. Lobo, as played by Jason Momoa, is confirmed for the Supergirl Women of Tomorrow movie.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, I'm so excited.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
I'd throw that.
The actual confirmation as opposed to the internet confirmation.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm really stoked for Lanterns because of the team.
I thought we said no Lobo before. I apologize.
It's weird.
Lobo daughter with no
we were
Lobo.
saying solo
okay.
Lobo.
Solo
Gotcha.
Lobo.
Gotcha.
Wow. There's so much information to that, but not anything really new. That was,
Well, it's like a furthering, yeah.
That was wild because I was like,
Well, when you asked me like what was the DC news, I was like, they just like kind of like ellipsed. They just moved along the sentence. Like
I
we just
appreciate
know
you doing
more.
all that research though, John. Thank you. Wow. I thought we'd have more to talk about.
DC wise,
Yeah.
I mean, it's movies this year. I also Superman's this year.
Just like throw shit out.
I'm gonna just say stuff, guys. The confirmation about the Wonder Twins movie is revelatory. The confirmation that we're getting the hologram of Tupac as Static Shock is crazy.
I think it's an interesting way to make people still pay attention to what's coming because it's not. This is like such unusual marketing for a whole new universe. it's just this one guy telling us what's coming.
Two guys. Peter Safran.
It's two guys telling us. Well, I mean, just think about James Gunn, but it's these two guys who just keep coming back with like, hey, here's the process, there's the progress on like 15 different things all at once. And they just keep updating us. And I don't know, it's just like a weird time when you got like, usually when you got like Kevin Feige, who's known to be remarkably secretive and want to keep things hush, or they just wait to reveal something. It's an interesting word of mouth marketing thing to get people having a conversation about what's in development and to be excited about what's in development.
Yeah.
Not like there's a trailer out or whatever. I don't know. Do you get it all where I'm going with this?
I completely
so
agree.
strange.
But I like that it's not copying another thing.
No, I'm saying it's a positive thing because it's a weird thing of letting the audience in on the creative process.
It feels like an old writer's room.
Without letting the audience control the creative process. Yeah,
well, I think it releases the pressure valve a little bit because it's like we know so much about what happens behind the scenes, and I feel like people lament that we know so much about what happens behind the scenes, and so now for them to be kind of chill and candid about like, yeah, we thought this would be further along, and actually this thing popped up out of nowhere. Like I feel like that's actually kind of a better dialogue to have.
I agree.
To just be like, yeah, the authority, we're chiseling it out, but we're having some, like, to just say shit like
as
that.
opposed to rumors.
That's like so weird.
Yeah, and like the Twitter sphere being like, oh my God, they can't get authority made. They're like, we're just having trouble.
Yeah, like it's just,
thought you guys should know.
It's a very unique way to market.
Clayface, not on the thing originally. Here we are.
When nothing's come out yet, like other than Creature Commandos
Yeah.
and I guess Blue Beetle, but nothing's really until Superman. Nothing's really like out there live action.
And personally, I think it's smart to wait until Superman to really unleash anything, because then you get to have the Superman press tour actually have stuff to talk about too.
Yeah.
Like, don't blow your load in February.
Yeah.
He did say one thing about the overall interconnectivity that's just sort of note here. He said that, you know, compared to Marvel, for example, that's not part of the quote. The quote begins here. It isn't like they're chapters of an overall story. He continued, they're characters that are part of an overall story. You know, and he's got basically a 6-year plan that will lead to the Avengers style culminative, you know.
Oh yeah,
crossover
that's the
event.
big one.
Yeah.
That's I did hear about that.
Yeah.
Surprised we didn't talk about that. Yeah,
And
that's
each
big.
individual project works as its own thing, but yeah, it's ultimately going to result in a 6-year culmination.
And that's why people are being like, canon, not canon, not canon. Like, it's each character's arc, like a comic.
Maybe it'll lead to Dark Superman, and they have to defeat Darkseid in the future.
Yeah.
With pregnant Lois Lane.
With Bruce Wayne's baby. Yeah, that's what we want. Unprecedented.
Kind of hilarious if he just did Zack Snyder's Justice League 2 without.
With him. We just bring him back.
You just bring him back after all that is said and done. Just bring him back.
I dig this path. But I don't want everything to feel like what we've seen before. Like
I don't think it's going to be 6 years from now.
No,
I feel like it'll get delayed. I feel like he has a plan. I like that he has a plan because you need a goal to try to hit,
right,
to stay on track. But readjusting and plans moving,
right,
is allowed. And so, I mean, from what he's saying with that, it was like, 6 years from now, because Superman comes out this year, we should get some culmination movie. I don't feel like it's going to happen 6 years. The Batman 2 can't even get made, man. We're not gonna.
Hey, man, Avengers in 14 months.
Yeah,
Doomsday's out next week.
They can do it, but just based off of how often James Gunn is pretty particular about, like, no, we're not there yet with the script.
Yeah,
I feel like it's an okay thing if it's not out in 6 years from now.
You can only release it once.
And I'm so glad he wasn't like, yeah, we're doing Justice League in 6 years.
Right. Or like, we announced this and this. I was afraid it'd be another giant slate, and I'd be like, no, don't give release dates. Don't give, like, because then it's just chipping away at what didn't happen.
Yeah. Wow. That's not at all. Because that's what I expected to walk into, because I didn't really pay attention to it.
Yeah.
That's what I expected to walk into with this conversation on that topic when John was riffing, that it was going to be like, oh, new this, new this. And I'm like, oh, wow, this is just like progress updates.
And that's, I mean, you asked me what I thought of them announcing so much. This is how you follow that up without shooting yourself in the foot.
Yeah. Smart call. Anyway, that's it for DC on that chapter. The final chapter. Coy wants to talk about Timothée Chalamet.
Timothée Chalamet! Biggest news of the week. Okay. This actually means a lot to me. Okay. The award speech at the SAG Awards, Timothée Chalamet got up and he went, A lot of people don't like when people talk like this, but I want to be one of the greats. I aspire for greatness. This means a lot to me. And he wasn't belittling himself or trying to be overly humble. He's like, I want to be one of the greats. And then he cited like great actors, Daniel Day-Lewis, Michael Phelps, great athletes, like et cetera. And I thought this was an incredible speech.
And he also said that this by no means he is in that caliber.
Right.
He said that.
But then the internet's like, who does he think he is?
Yeah.
And I was like, I have never seen such rampant insecurity from strangers than to yell at a kid going like, I'd like to be great.
No.
And I think it is a really big problem in society that we get mad at people aspiring. Like there was this popular thing about like, lazing, not caring, like throwing it away. And then I've loved, much like with Kendrick bringing back lyricism, bringing back hard work and effort and caring. Like I feel like intelligence is being fought at a government level, so we shouldn't fight it at an individual level. I think intelligence should be rewarded. And I think that trying should be rewarded. And I think there are people that are actively wanting us to not try so they can subjugate us. So when a kid comes out and makes a speech about wanting greatness and wanting himself to aspire for more, and people react to that negatively, we are done as a society. If we think like, who does he think he is wanting to be good? And like it really affected my view on the world and people and society and individuals. We should never look at something wanting to aspire as a negative. It felt like people being mad at Superman wanting to be about hope. Like, let's look up. Why aren't we? Why are we judging someone for aspiring to anything?
I didn't realize there was all this backlash. There was?
Yeah.
Is the most nothing burger of a controversy.
Right. But like I'm affected because one person someone being like, oh, who does he think he is? I would just block immediately. The fact that we're more than one, it makes me worried.
I mean, if you're mad, it's just clear you didn't hear the whole speech.
Or you just don't understand like being motivated.
Greats aspire to be I guess it depends on how people are interpreting what it means to be great, because what he's saying in that is he wants to be a great actor. He wants to be great at his craft. Why would you watch an actor who doesn't want that? Who shows
wants
up
to be mediocre.
Of course, if he's going to show up to set and be the leading actor, I hope whatever actor is a lead actor is like, I want to do a great job at this, so I'm going to put all my effort and homework into this, and I'm going to chisel the shit out of anything I need to do to turn in the best performance I could possibly turn in.
It was like a Nike commercial
You
for
think
me.
Daniel Day-Lewis is like, I want to be all right?
Yeah, that's that's what I didn't understand about anyone thinking anything less than that. Like it felt like a Nike ad. I wanted to like work out
because
not
he acknowledges the fact that it's like might not be the most classy thing to say, because normally you have to just be like super humble, and maybe like in terms of speech and communication, crediting a little bit more James Mangold. I didn't listen to the whole speech. Like, I don't know if he did, so correct me if I'm wrong, please. Like crediting James Mangold, crediting his other actors that help bring, because for a lead actor, you're the lead, and you got to give credit to all the supporting players who help bring that performance out of you, and your director as well, and the writer. There's a lot you got to give credit to for the material you have to work with and stuff. There's because at the end of the day, you are one piece still out of an entire machine when developing this movie. At the same time, I don't think there's anything wrong at all with him saying he wants to be great.
And I just realized I did the exact thing I'm trying not to do, which is starting negative. I want to reframe. I love his speech because it inspired me and it made me want to do more.
It's
and
no different than when like Will Smith is inspiring.
I loved the speech. So before I saw any backlash, I was just like, yeah, this kid, Lasan Al-Gaib, doing it, getting after it.
Athlete mentality is like the key to so much in life.
But I hate that that's stigmatized. Like, that's what freaks me out.
And that's what you mean about, I think, does that tie back into a couple of videos ago when you were talking about how masculinity is often just looked at as toxic masculinity? Yeah.
Like, there are times when, like, I feel fat right now, and I hate it. But I know when I post, like, fitness stuff as I get back into shape that I'm comfortable with, there will be people that are like, oh, why are you being fat phobic by being happy with your body now? That shit scares me. Like that, like kind of concept. And this feels like a mental version of that.
Oh, when I get the six pack, I don't give a shit.
Oh, dude, I'm never
like,
wearing
shut
shirts.
Your fat ass up. Get a six pack.
Deal
So I'm
with
not
it.
tell those comments.
Timothy.
There will be a few shirtless episodes.
Timothée Chalamet. Tim Cham did not mention James Mangold by name, but he did shout out Monica Barbaro, Edward Norton, and Elle Fanning, as well as the entire cast
his fellow
for
performer is
giving it
good.
their all and expressed his gratitude to them in the speech.
He needs to feed off of what the other actors are giving them. I know enough about acting. I'm by no means a great actor or an aspiring great actor, but I know enough
I too
about
walk on to set and hope for mediocrity.
I hope that
Is that Always Sunny in Philadelphia? Is Greg Alba?
I'm very much like I understand basic principles and
That
basic
reacting is-
basic principle is you have to feed off of what your other performers are giving you as well, And so it's important to think. I think it is important to thank your co-stars.
But I just wanted to flag the speech because it meant a lot to me. So not coming even from a place of the reaction, coming from a place of me, which is what I want to do.
Yeah.
I thought it was an incredible speech, and I see him as a movie star now. Like I've always seen him as like a star and someone that could like open a movie and like clearly he's got the box office receipts. But there's something different between like a star and a movie star. Like there's something iconic about someone that is like that driven that like leads to greatness. And now I'm like, oh, this kid's someone to watch.
I agree that when you grow in fame and success, you have to practice humility. It doesn't come naturally for a lot of people. Some people you really have to practice being humble. It's a discipline, weirdly enough, as it is. And is he a little cocky? Maybe. I'd surmise he's a little cocky, but I remember Gary Oldman many years ago saying, you got to have a little bit of ego to survive in this business.
You have to be delusional to work in this
You have
business.
to be delusional. I mean,
You don't have to have a little bit of ego. You have to be out of your mind.
You're the center of attention on what you're working
Yeah.
on. Like, of course you want a little bit of attention. You want a little bit. You have to. There's no way I can fathom that you are the absolute most humble person to the degree where you're like, no, I don't care about fame at all or attention. I just care about I'm like, like fame has come with the package of being a successful actor.
Also, just the
since
stats.
start of fame,
Everything's working against you. You have to be a little delusional, believe you can even get there.
Yeah.
So I love it.
Yeah, and I'd rather take an honest acceptance speech than some feigning humility speech.
That reads like, oh, what is
Yeah.
that? Like, it's why I love Kieran Culkin so much, man. His awards journey has been fascinating. That dude is so himself.
I think Chalamet is an easy target, though.
Yeah, that's fair.
People find him to be a really easy target. Like, even how I was talking at the beginning about the echo chamber with Kathleen Kennedy. I used to have that with Timothée Chalamet.
Really?
In a weird way of like, I know he's a good actor, but why is there a part of me that doesn't like him? And then I don't know why, but I'm like, call me by your name. He's great at calling me by your name.
Yeah,
I love him to
amazing.
call me by your name. I wasn't a huge fan of Wonka, but even in that movie, I remember the first like 20, 30 minutes being like, I'm not really buying this. But then eventually I got really pulled into what he was doing.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was Dune.
Dude.
And look at everything we have just in those movies alone. Those are three very different genres of film.
Yeah. Have you seen
And
A Complete Unknown?
No, I haven't.
Okay.
And he's led these genre of films.
Yeah.
The guy is a star. The guy can he's diverse.
He was also practicing Bob Dylan songs on the set of Dune. Like, he was developing this for 5.5 years.
Yeah.
He's not old. 5.5 years is a huge chunk of your life. Enjoy the victory lap.
He understands the stakes of crafting a biopic performance. Like, he's playing Bob Dylan. He understood it. So by all means, aspire to be great, always. I'd hate to be... When you stop aspiring to be great, you start going backwards, I think.
Yeah.
Especially in a business like this.
Yeah. I think sedentary life is not healthy for anything, much less something in that field.
I'm very big on, like, it's trying to be great, but it's just... You want to be better.
Yeah, every day.
You want to try to improve and be better.
Yeah.
So
I'm going to the gym after this. I got bi-tri forearm day.
that's why I'm taking a 3-hour nap.
Nice.
Working
your mental health.
Then I'll be stressed out. Then I'm
bet you run out of
behind on
time.
everything else.
And it won't be done.
And I get to bed at 4 a.m.
This will go out on Saturday. You'll be mad at it. The algorithm's like, that's not when this show drops.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's the move.
I want to be okay.
I want to be adequate.
I want to be mediocre.
I aspire for adequacy.
Yes.
That's what I'm shooting for. Not the moon, not the stars, the crust. I'm already
That
there.
that is a fascinating point, huh? You say I want to be great.
And people get upset.
It's because the average person shies away from being great. They're average person's so afraid of failure. But I'm like, most successful people, of course, have a fear of failure, but they kind of embrace it.
I also think there's a fear of standing out that people have. And thus, you don't do anything to stand out, and then you get mad at people that have.
Yeah. Yeah. Like, I would never say don't be afraid to fail. I'd say embrace failure, Because you said something earlier that I had never heard that. You learn from loss, not victory. And I've heard you learn from failure, not success. Another version of saying it, right? So yeah, don't be afraid to fail. Do exactly what I said not to say.
But yeah, I the speech meant a lot. That was my only thing this week that I was like, that's the only thing that pop culture happened this week that I think will actually stick with me for a long time. Because when news ebbs and flows, it's whatever. Like, but I'll be more likely to rewatch a minute and a half of his speech and be inspired by it than like, do you remember that week when they casually said maybe Kathleen Kennedy's gone, or that week when the Russo brothers were like, it's a good movie I'm making. Like that's not, but like an actual moment of a movie star feeling emboldened and like inspiring others. That's exciting to me.
Yeah. All right. Well, shit. Well, that's gonna do it for today, people.
We run this show.
That's how news videos wrap up.
Yeah,
so
we
that's
did.
gonna do it for today.
Next week we'll read your good comments. We're gonna be positive.
Leave your thoughts down below on what you think with Daryl, the Kathleen Kennedy. Is she a pain in the ass? Punisher. Oh my God. Yeah, should be a movie. Should they do a multiverse movie of all the punishing? Doomsday. Oh my God, it's some groundbreaking stuff. Who's gonna be the Avengers lineup? Andor. Should they release it all on the same day? The DC slate. Oh my God, James Gunn. He killed Zack Snyder. And Timothée Chalamet, little snotty 12-year-old boy. Real rejects. We're sincere always.
We knew that people have this view that somehow we have been pitted against each other, Gunn said. It's odd to have someone who you're friendly with in real life be the guy that is positioned as your Lex Luthor. Or I'm his Lex Luthor. It's just a weird dynamic that's been created between factions online. Sometimes they talk about different things. It's crazy.
Splendid.